Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Once again, today we have a really cool keyboard, but to me it's really impossible to use, and we'll find out why coming up. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Betty from Switch and Click, and today from the title we will be reviewing the Epomaker SK71 Optical Hot-swappable mechanical keyboard. It's super cool, it really is. Honestly, I wish I loved it, but I really can't. So let's jump into what's in the box. Alright, first up in the box we have the typical Epomaker stuff. There's a ton of accessories. We have the keyboard itself, that we'll talk about really soon. We do have a USB-C cable because it is a detachable USB-C keyboard. We have the wired keycap puller, pretty standard. Nothing to complain about, nothing to rave about either. We have a metal switch puller, of course, because it is a optical hot swappable build. I really don't recommend these switch pullers, but they are useful when you're digging into around the case and the crevices. Other than that, I recommend of course, the green kind, which you've seen me recommend a bunch of times. I'll link those down below. And of course, you have the guide on how to use the board. Keep the guide. You're gonna need the guide. There's no sub-legends. You absolutely need the guide, okay? Let's move on. All right, so the price, it is about $89 on the Epomaker website. It's also available on Amazon, but I'm not sure what the price is there. The links will all be down below, of course. And before we get into the build quality, keycaps, stabilizers, and all that jazz, I'm just going to explain why typing on this is so impossible and frustrating for me personally. It may not be for you, but who knows? You gotta try it, right? So on the far left-hand column, you'll already notice that it's different from a typical layout. You have a 1U tab, which is small. You have a small caps, and you also have a smaller shift. They're all smaller than your typical layout. And what this does is when you're typing on the home row and you're reaching for keys, it just messes up with the way that your fingers remember them. And not only that, on the right side, there's also a big change as well. Let's not even talk about the number pad yet. Let's keep talking about those alphas. So on the right of the 0, we're missing the minus and we're missing the plus. So everything's scrunched together a little bit more. On the next row down, we are missing the entire right bracket button that's combined into the left bracket button. And to access those is really complicated. So the top left symbol is what it is by default, no holding anything. When you press shift, when you hold shift and press that, you'll get the left bracket. When you hold FN, you'll get the right curly brace. And then when you hold FN and shift, you get the right bracket. That's a lot of thinking and a lot of holding things, right? And then not only that, but now our backslash key is, instead of its normal size, it's now a 1U key, and your enter is smaller. So there's just a lot going on. Honestly, it wouldn't have been too bad, but these next parts made it really hard for me. So what they did to the left and right bracket, they also did to the colon and apostrophes and quotation marks, as well as the question mark and forward slash. So everything on this keyboard is more scrunched up together, and when I type, when reaching up to press backspace or something, instead of pressing backspace, I'll usually venture into the space of the number pad and press num or something like that. So the cool parts about this keyboard is that it does have a number pad, and that it does have the footprint of a 65% keyboard. So that's really small to have a numpad. But personally, I feel like the sacrifices that they made to make this happen was a little bit too high. And for a keyboard that's this price with this unique of a layout, I probably will not be taking the time to go out and get used to it and mess up the way that I normally type. So not for me. I did stick to it for a couple days and it was just so frustrating. Well, now that's all out of the way. You may still really like the board. Let's move on to build quality. And of course, we always start at the back. At the back of the board, you'll see that there are no adjustable kickstands at all. This is very typical for all the other Epomaker builds as well. There are 4 rubber feet here to prevent you from sliding anywhere when you're using your keyboard. The case is pretty much all plastic and there is an aluminum backplate to keep it sturdy. And what that means is that there's really no flex here when I manually try to flex it, so no problems with that. You can see that there's a USB-C port on the top left side of the keyboard. It's a pretty good location. I don't have any complaints there, but I don't like that it's slightly recessed a little. And of course, like my USB-C cables will fit and work in there, and the one that they have will fit in there, but not every one will fit. So for example, my Vivify RGB USB-C cable, like it doesn't fit in there, but that specifically does have a fat covering, so that might be why. All right, so the side, although it has no kickstands, it already has a pretty good angle by itself. Absolutely no complaints on this one. If you really feel the need to make the angle more steeper, you can always place bump-ons or something on the back of the keyboard and do it like that, although it won't be as attractive looking or adjustable. In the front of the keyboard, we can see that it has the same old Epomaker GSA PBT profile keycaps. The legends are dye sublimated, so they'll last a pretty long time without any wear and tear, even if you're using them for a pretty long time. All right, let's move on to the keycaps. The keycaps are an Epomaker GSA profile. It's pretty much a mix between XDA and DSA, at least that's how I think about it and understand it. The F and J do have little feelers if you're needing yourself to home back to the homing row. And then the spacebar is more convex rather than concave like all the other keys. They hug your fingers pretty well. They are PBT plastic and they're dye sublimated. So these legends are gonna last you a pretty long time, which is good because you're gonna need the legends to last a long time if there's these weird layouts like this and weird things that you need to do. I really would have liked it if there were more sub-legends for things like the secondary media keys or things like Windows lock, for all of those other things that are in the manual but not on the keyboard itself. And one thing that I would like to say is that it's pretty much going to be impossible for you to find custom keycaps or replacement keycaps for this board. There's just too many odd-shaped keys. I've never seen a 1U tab, except in ortholinear 40% builds. I've never seen a caps that small. There's just a lot of things going on here that are not supporting me recommending the purchase of this board. All right, the switches. This is probably weird, but for this keyboard, we got the optical Gateron blue switches. And they do have different options. They have optical black, they have optical blue, optical red, and optical brown. So optical switches are a little bit different than mechanical ones in that they actuate via the covering of a light rather than metal touching on metal. So you can read all about it. We have information on our blog. You can use the search function, whatever, that's not the important part. The optical blues sound really nice, like really crispy. I was really impressed. Here's just a little sneak preview. Of course, typing test at the end, like always. So crispy, right? They sound really good. They have clean clicks, a lot better than regular Gateron blues where it's a little wobbly and there's some extra noise in there. It's just smooth, it's fast, and it's clicky. And this is hot swappable, although it's only hot swappable with other optical switches And as you know, there really aren't that many out there. It's quite limiting. So another X against this keyboard, I suppose. But if you are wanting optical switches to improve your performance in game and decrease the bouncing and do all that jazz, this keyboard is probably great for gaming. It's small, there's a numpad, lets you do all kinds of interesting things in game, and it's compact. It's pretty awesome in that sense. It's fast too. All right, the stabilizers, there are only 2 stabilizers on this board. We have the 6.5U spacebar stabilizer, and it sounds pretty decent. It probably could use some modifications, but with the blue switches, it doesn't sound bad at all. And then the second stabilizer we have is a 2U stabilizer for the backspace. And other than that, that's it. That's all the stabilizers you need. It's not a lot of modifications to improve this board at all. They are cherry style plate mounted stabilizers, so because it's hot swap, it's really easy to get the stabilizers out and mod them to make them sound a little bit better. And with the optical switches, you can also lube them. You can spray lube, but just take them out of the board before you do that, or else you might damage your PCB. So they are a little bit rattly, but I'm not going to put that as an X against this one since they're decent. And then of course there are software and layers. This keyboard has 4 different programmable layers that you can use the software to change. The first layer you can't change because that's the basic standard layer and you can't do anything to that one. But to layers 1, 2, and 3, after that, you can change them to whatever you like. And then to change between the layers is really easy. You can stick onto a layer forever instead of using the standard one if you're using like Dvorak or Comac or something like that. And then of course with the software, you can edit the RGB patterns and things like that as well. It does have RGB, but the keycaps really don't allow that to shine through. And we can go over all the RGB effects right now. Alright, those are all the RGB effects. You can do more with the software that they have. You have to download it on the Epomaker website. But of course, now it's the important part, the typing test. Woo! Okay, that was the typing test. Hope you enjoyed the typing test. I personally really like the Gateron optical switches. Don't have much to complain about the switches themselves, but you know, I'm really not a big fan of this board. I sort of like the way Epomaker is taking things and really experimenting with different layouts and different keyboards and a lot of optical keyboards, but this one's gotta be a no for me, and I think I pretty much thoroughly explained all my reasoning. But the primary one is that it's sort of impossible for me to write anything or get through messaging and sending emails and things like that with this board and still do so in a productive manner. And I do a lot of work, so I need a board that's gonna sort of fit into my lifestyle and the way that I use them. But if you are interested in this board, and some of you may be, links are down below. I mean, it's preference. It's all gonna be preference. If you're willing to learn a new layout, and if you really need the number pad, but you still want a compact layout, this is perfect. And it's unique. And it's optical and hot swappable, so you can lube them and you can mount your stabilizers. There's some good things going for this board too, but not for me. So, hope you liked the video. I'll see you in the next one.